we're a franchise model. So basically, we have franchisees who run stores, and we are a master franchisee ourselves we are the custodians of the brand in those markets from the parent company who sits in the USA where the brand was created.
So about how big is like your extended team, the IT team within your organization?
So we've got around about 150, including offshore resources that we have to manage our IT in the UK and I business.
And you and I've been talking a little bit about this. Tell me about, it's been a couple of years you've been a part of this organization. Tell me a little about your technology journey that's been going on and some of the challenges you've been facing.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. So about 10 years ago, we had a new global CEO in the US business who changed the brand, basically, turned it on its head, and we became very technology focused. And a lot of markets were already doing this, by the way. So the UK, for example, had internet ordering back in 1999 when modems and fax were a thing. So they used to dial up, order the pizza, and they'd fax the order to the store. The store would go and key it in. So actually, we do have a DNA in technology going way back. But our transformation, I won't call it a digital transformation. We've been doing digital for quite some time, actually. And we have a very performant platform today that services about 1.2 billion in sales. And I think what we are going through is the next evolution of technology, moving into cloud-based solutions and trying to avail of the benefits that cloud offers, which many speakers today have talked about.
So what was the hardest part about that kind of migration to cloud for your team?
I'm not actually worried about the technology part, if I'm completely honest, because it's been done before. I mean, the cloud's there now, and there's a lot of great stories, and we've heard some of them today about success in the cloud and what it's offering volume businesses and transactional businesses. So that doesn't worry me. It's been really the challenges around the team and mindset shift and getting the team to embrace a new way of thinking around technology and moving them from a very legacy world of coding in a monolithic environment and the old release cycles and the way that we used to manage change in that environment using frameworks to now, we heard earlier about continuous delivery. It is about this get it out and get it out now and get it out fast and move at pace. And that's really, I think, the big change that's happened. And our job as technologists at the management level is really to bring our people on that journey and to give them the tools and empowerment to actually make it work. And that's what worries me about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And like culturally, has that been a big challenge for the team, or like have people been there to embrace it? Like what have been some of the catalysts to drive that?
Actually, the team have been very supportive of the change. They wanted the change, actually. Mm-hmm. So it's a new space. All of their other colleagues in other businesses they'd worked with prior were already moving there. We were a little bit slow to adopt that, but we do have applications in cloud already in terms of our GPS tracking solution, which is in 700 stores, which is real-time driver tracking of your pizza to your door. However, I think when we actually started the process, people realised, oh, actually this is challenging. It's a different way, and I think whilst everyone wanted to do it, we weren't really prepared for the cultural challenges and the teamwork dynamic challenges that came with that around these new terms that you hear about DevOps, and if you ask 10 people in this room what DevOps is, again you'll get 10 different answers because it means something slightly different depending on your organisational structure and how you operate. So those things have been quite challenging just to work through those, to get to an efficient place where actually your core focus then gets on building your product.
Yeah, of course. And one of the things I've found interesting talking to you is you said about 70% of the actions in about 3 days of the week.
Yeah.
In general, so you've got some really interesting kind of challenges around peak capacity and cost management, I'm sure. How's that worked out for you? Like, how have you been able to leverage cloud tech and other approaches for that?
Yeah, well, that's one of the key things. So obviously a business like ours, and where we're doing 70% of our business in really peak times around dinner periods, that's where cloud really is a strength, because the scalability of that and now with auto scaling, how mature that is, really gives us that ability to get rid of a lot of that capacity overhead that you carry naturally to try and support those sort of things. actually, another big thing is around event days where, like other businesses, when certain events happen around the country or in local areas, we get spike in traffic and orders because people don't want to cook for themselves. They want to order out, get takeout. So we see an increase in volume on those special days, and they can be quite substantially higher than the typical day of the week that you would see throughout the year. So actually, cloud brings that capability where, and I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but it gives you that capability to scale quite quickly for those sorts of environments. So for our business, it's a perfect match, really.
For your peak work, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So this is pretty important to you too, right? We were talking a little about like where the action happens.
Yeah.
Tell the crowd a little bit about kind of how mobile gets used as part of the customer experience and how that works in the business.
Yeah, customers are everything to us. I mean, they're everything to every business, but we really value our customers well, and we need to be where they are. So just to give you some stats, so we do about 1.2 billion a year in sales. On our busiest hour throughout the year, it's probably about 1.2 million just in that hour. We do 80% plus of our orders online, actually. Of that, 80% is from a mobile device. Mm-hmm. So basically, 42% is app, so dedicated app on a device, whether it be Android or iOS. And the other 38% comes from web mobile, actually, which might surprise some people, but actually a lot of people do use browser-based capability. Right. So our job, I guess, in technology is to make sure those experiences are the same or better, no matter which channel that they're trying to use. So mobile phones particularly have changed the game in terms of e-commerce, in my opinion, particularly for us.
And you see that growing as well. Is that that's the trend, I would assume?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't carry their phone with them now? I mean, when's the last time you reached for your PC to do an e-commerce, or even Amazon? I mean, their app, and you typically go there, do a quick search, and find what you want, and you can order it straight away. So I think that having that flexibility to have something in your pocket where you can just order what you want and then track it in real time, by the way, I think they're really powerful things, and that will just continue. Yeah. The generations coming after us now, they live on these things. I've got kids. People who've got kids know that. Trying to get them off the bloody things is hard enough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's one of those things where that's people have their lives now wrapped around. You used to carry around a portfolio with you as a business person with all of your notes and your calendar and things. That portfolio has pretty much been replaced and been more powerful through mobile technology. Yeah,
actually, I'm feeling a little hungry. Do you like sausage on yours or mushrooms? No. So obviously that means that front-end performance is critical, and there's some numbers you also shared with me. 2,000 pizzas a day, 700,000 pizzas a year. What are those tied to?
So we've correlated the fact that performance generates conversion for us. So basically, the more performant your website is, to a point, will increase your conversion on that site. And when we first deployed New Relic, I think we increased our conversion after we did the tweaks that New Relic was telling us you need to tweak this. We did about 1.85%, which it translates to about 700,000 pizzas across the UK alone, 2,000 pizzas a day that we improved our conversion rate on.
That's some decent turnover as well, I'm sure, along with that.
Yeah. There's some money behind that for sure.
Get some work. You going to work on the next 700,000? Is that what's next?
Well, that's the beauty of the product, really. It's a continuous cycle now. It's not once off, then you leave it, and then you come back to it. These tools are designed to constantly tell you when things are not right or changing. And one thing I wanted to highlight is that we've seen a huge shift in how consumers are interacting with our platforms, right? So if you take your eye off the ball, they actually are changing their behaviour, and some of this is driven by marketing for sure. Marketing will put out some sort of special offer, and that changes their behaviour on your platform. And these tools help you identify that quite quickly. And where you may not have focused on performance on an area because it was very lowly utilised, because it's a zero-sum game, sometimes it tells you, actually, if you focus there, you will see an improvement. And that's what these tools are. It's not a once-off thing or an irregular thing. It's an everyday event.
So you've seen some opportunities for New Relic One applications to build in your team to get an even more precise view of what's going on?
Yeah, I was talking to, I've got a couple of my guys here today, And I was talking to them about the business context actually, because I see that's where the power is in translating the technical world, which we all live in day to day, to more the business world where those metrics actually matter to our business, and involving them in the conversation of how this type of tooling can start to influence a change in behaviour of our business as well. So I think that's a really powerful capability that's being brought to the table. And some of the examples that we've seen earlier, I particularly like the one around availability of stock. I think that's so powerful. I'm sure there's 10 other ways you could do it, but to have it in a consistent platform that's tied back to the technical performance is quite powerful in my view.
Yeah, as you were talking about, auto scaling to handle peak on the front end order-wise, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what about pizza dough and sauce and cheese and all the things that are downstream to fulfill those orders too? I'm sure that's part of your. You obviously support the entire supply chain, I assume. So that's got to be part of the challenge as well, dealing with not just the front end, but the back end side of it as well, right?
Yeah, well, e-commerce is a big part of our business, but equally, operationally, the customer experience doesn't stop at the place of order. It also carries through to fulfillment, which is a really important part of our business. And fulfillment, in our case, when you place an order, you expect your pizza at your door within 30 minutes, right? I mean, that's the message that's been espoused for pizza delivery for a decade. And so when it doesn't turn up in 30 minutes, you're going, where the hell's my pizza? You bastards, come on, I'm hungry, I've got screaming kids, So when you look at that, when you look at traditional e-commerce, Amazon, we promise we'll give it to you in a day, maybe. So there's a very different dynamic that happens in our business, and milliseconds matter to us. So actually, we really need to be focused on all of our tech stack across the whole platform. So right through to getting an order onto our GPS tracking system, so our driver knows where to go, and then using mapping platforms like Waze or Google to be able to go. Actually, there's a traffic accident on the way. It'll route you around to stop that delay. And all of those technologies are something that my team have to consider every day.
So you've got a pretty broad portfolio of technologies. What are you thinking about next? Like, what's in the future from your team's perspective in Domino's to get me even better pizza faster and more tasty pizza? Yeah,
well, as I said, it's a game of milliseconds really, about trying to cut time off. Obviously, economically, particularly in the UK with the current government and economic climate, costs are going up. So we have to manage those costs down and help our franchisees get those under control. So technology has to play a big part in that, right? Because obviously when you've got labour costs rising and you have to invest labour to make good product, the less time you spend on making that good product, but it's still being a good product, is time saved and money saved, which we can then pass on to the consumer in terms of value. So they get value out of it. And the technology also provides a saving for us. So actually, that's really part of it. I think when we talk about newer innovation style technologies, obviously we're talking about autonomous delivery, things like that. That it's coming. It's not there yet. I mean, there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of real world examples where it's actually being utilised around the globe. Drone deliveries, driverless cars delivering product, and we're experimenting in the US as well with various different partners to try and see how that model can affect us going forward, because clearly that labour saved by not having a driver do that, you can then invest in other areas. So those technologies will bubble along and we'll start to drive that and experiment. I think other areas that we're really focused on, though, is around the artificial intelligence part, which I know is a buzzword in the industry at the moment, but actually the power of being able to answer questions that you haven't asked yet is quite enticing. So if we can understand, and these AI platforms can tell us when things are occurring that we normally wouldn't instrument or ask the question of, that is quite powerful, and that can help us deliver that better product to customers, because we can address those concerns before they even become concerns. And that's where I see sort of a lot of investment in what we'll do in the back end, certainly. And I know our business is already doing a lot of that in terms of AI in pay-per-click, and there's a lot of those technologies around now to target customers and give them actually the offers and deals that suits them. If you're a single girl or guy living in London, you don't want to get a 4 pizza deal, do you? I mean, well, maybe you do. I don't know. But it's it's around that, just trying to understand our customers better so that we can service their needs. And it's not about spying on them or anything like that. and in this age of privacy and GDPR and things like that we're dealing with, it's more about saying we want to understand you so we can provide you the right choice rather than bombarding you with crap all day.
And you mentioned, I know you focus on direct delivery to customers. You don't work through a lot of delivery services as much. I assume that's in service of like really connecting intimately with your customers and their needs, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our unique service proposition is we are completely end-to-end. We own the whole thing, so it's on us to make sure we give a good service. A lot of these delivery order aggregators, they go to a restaurant. That's not their restaurant, and so they're not part of that producing of the product. And equally, when it leaves the store, the restaurant's not part of the experience for the customer either. So we pride ourselves on the fact that we own the end-to-end, so we can control all of that, and we can make sure that that product is in the best possible state when it reaches your door, so that you're not left disappointed.
Sounds great. Well, I hope we can help you find another 700,000 pizzas in there through more performance optimization. We all know how important the customer experience is, and it's clear that Domino's is very focused on like a stellar customer experience. So thanks for sharing your insights today, and y'all go get some Domino's pizza after this later in the evening.
Please do.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.